Mission fucking accomplished. Goon Swarm is not a threat.
Good luck with your all's dumb nullsec war. Snuffed out #1. Anunnaki Keepstar is next, and then come on.
There, then you were just going to fucking magically jump into EVE Online in a system, and it was just going to load, and nobody was going to call you fucking stupid later?
There's an Eagle fleet that has dive bombed a Megathron fleet. This is the bravest shit I have ever seen in my life.
The best possible shot to do something to the Imperium, and you fucked it up.
I talked a lot of shit over the last couple months. It's time to fucking eat some. And I showed up here to eat shit. Like,
The reason that this keeps started and get contested, and I cannot make this up, is because of tie-dye.
Guess where goons are going to live after this war is over?
Current plan is 319, I believe, right?
Hell.
Hi, sick.
I can
People
tell you very
overreacting.
clearly, our Diplos didn't even fucking care. Like,
White daddy.
Good evening, Capsuleers, half of whom are actively playing the game, the other half of you who are incredibly bitter and just waiting to return to lead your alliance to victory. Perhaps this is the week that starts you going. A number of changes that we're going to be discussing today. We have some guests with us. We have our whole host of usual additional hosts, but we also have with us Kazanir, who's representing all things Imperium, current CSM member, and one of the people to thank for this past week's incredible changes. We've also got Sven Bauer, who is half of all of Deepwater Hooligans, and we've also got Wally Martz, the man who walked so that Seema could run on Reddit. Maybe he'll be able to reclaim that top spot at one stage in the future. How is everybody? Feel free to talk over each other, given I just asked everybody at the same time.
Fantastic. I'm happy
pretty
to
good.
be here. Thanks for introducing us, dude.
This is pretty cool.
Well, what, you mean the changes we've just had?
Yeah, no,
No,
the
I-
new background. It's great, right?
Beautiful.
It's pretty.
Is that the
Do you
new T2 Ansplex that they're going to put in, where you can jump if you're bubbled?
No, it's just a regular Stargate, which is unaffected by these cruel and unfair Ansplex changes.
What?
Just saying.
What the hell is a Stargate?
I gotta say, they did knock it out of the park with the little ads, like the pirate ads. They look really cool.
They did.
Oh,
It looks.
Have
great.
you ever zoomed in on those gates? You've seen little ships flying around them as well,
Yeah.
maintaining the adverts.
It's
I love
cool.
it.
If you
love
check
it.
the patch notes, they actually gave them a name. They're called the Gate Gooners.
I don't think so. I
Yeah,
don't think
it's a
that's
little
right.
lore that they didn't. I mean, I guess you guys don't care about lore, but
Well, I guess what we're also playing on today's episode is a game of Spot the Fake News at the same time. But we'll leave that up to the viewers to decide. We've got some other changes to the game before we get on to the big repeat forever subject, the eternal subject of Ansiblex. Who's looking forward to broadcasting one of your fleet members as a target to be repaired because you want to give
Fat W.
your fleet even more time off from actually bothering to play the game?
That sounds
That's really big.
fabulous. Great
That's
change,
really big.
right?
I'll tell you
Anything that
what.
can help one player bridge the skill differential to another group of players in this game just opens up so many more possibilities, both for success and for failure, right? It's fantastic.
Well,
Also,
I tell you what's interesting about that is who here has tried it? Kaz, perhaps you know from before it launched as well, but can you broadcast a rep target who isn't in your fleet as well?
I have not tried that personally yet, so
you
let
can-
me
you can also
not
do
say
it.
anything. Okay.
You can also do it on like other targets, like deployables and that kind of thing.
Right, and
Is
I,
it-
I,
And
I assume
I don't
that's
know
why.
if it's in yet, but I think they're working on adding a hotkey. I know that wasn't working, or that just wasn't in yet, but I don't know. Is very big though, especially for deployables like inhibs and stuff.
Mm. Yeah, because previously I guess that especially in large messy fights, you'd be you'd be forced to broadcast it as a target for people who couldn't find it in the heat of the moment, that kind of thing. And,
Stupid.
proper Logi pilots have got those target broadcasts turned off anyway, so it starts to become silly in all directions here. Tell you where it would be useful when you've got a fleet mate who's having some kind of fleet issue or they've DC'd or something as well. Because currently, you DC from the game, you can't broadcast for reps. We've got a small raft of fleet improvements beyond just that. There, obviously, you can now force disband a fleet. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that just kicks everyone from the fleet, right?
Yep.
Very
Pretty
nice.
Exactly that.
And we've got a much more expanded set of opt-outs, not just for warps, but for regroups and for conduiting as well. Just all sorts of extra true quality of life improvements on fleets. Do you guys have anything that comes to mind that you'd still like to see as quality of life improvement for fleet management? Not yet.
No,
Everything's perfect. It's beyond perfect already. They fixed it entirely. It's going to be brilliant
it's not that
forever
it's
with these
perfect,
features.
There's just not any gaps. There's just not any gaps that I can think of. It's all good, dude. Works well.
It is good.
Higher fleet
FC
limits
should be able
would
to make everyone
cool.
jump.
That would be awful.
That'd be
Next, you'd want me to
hilarious.
F1 your fucking ship for you.
Jumping in tired low sec fucking gate camp in the ISEC. Oh my god. Oh, it's so beautiful.
I like Sasha's
built-in input
message.
broadcasting tools. Hell yeah.
Yes, built-in ISK boxer. 1,000-man fleets. Mike Flood's on the right track.
Yeah, maybe we should be able to right-click our stack of weapons and assign it to the FC as well.
No, probably not.
Weapon
Probably a
assist would
bad
go
idea.
really hard.
All right. I'm going to talk about something other than the fleets.
Sorry, hold on. What about watch lists? What if we automated watch lists so we could save a fleet like setup, like fleet squads and stuff? What if you can, when you start your fleet back up, people are already added to the watch list depending on what squad they're in?
If you could save watch list presets, that'd be really nice.
What about add all logistic ships in fleet to watch list?
Yeah, better watch list control is something that I've actually heard a lot, right? Either the ability to create multiple to automatically add, or have better control over who to add and when, or what they look like when they're on the watch list, all that sort of stuff. Seems like it would be a huge potential upgrade. Talking about stuff that a World of Warcraft add-on would have had 18 or 19 years ago, or what have you.
Being able to control the size of the health bars and like the colors and stuff on that as well.
Right, yeah.
Like disabling the shield and hull or making it bigger, taller, that kind of thing would be nice as well.
I do wonder if it would be something cool in the future. Now that we're in the era of being able to have multiple different overviews open at the same time, and bear with me through the beginning of this, but I think you'll get it. If we got rid of watch list and integrated its features to be, if we wanted, an overview tab that we could add to a watch list overview tab, and that way we would be able to put a lot more information on there. You'd be able to see your watch lists, velocity and distance and things.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, that does sound like a great idea.
Yeah. Having
we
it
should have voted for you kind of a lot harder, huh? My bad, dude. I should have pushed you more than I did.
Kosiak has got a really good one. Is auto remove capsules from fleet. I mean, that would actually be pretty nice. Or don't let the wrong ship even join this fucking fleet.
I think maybe make it so that capsules are always exempt from fleet warp would be a cool tool, so that you don't have to toggle it.
I think part of that is also just people got to pay attention and drop fleet if they're in a pod and they're dead, or you slow everyone else down.
I suppose that's a good point because, especially after, I'm going to go back to what you mentioned very briefly there, Luke, but we don't want to. It's a bit of there's a bit of a grey zone in the middle between what counts as quality of life and what counts as just removing the need for all the players in a fleet to play the game.
Yeah, I mean active management. You're right. I mean, to be fair, I think blocking fleets from certain ship types would be quite nice.
I disagree.
Ooh,
I disagree.
That would be good. I like that.
I disagree because that could, saying I don't want any recons to join my fleet would be a super good way of essentially automating the removal of certain types of spy and hot drop and AWACSing activity, making it harder for people to sabotage.
I was gonna say this when you were talking about swapping the watch list to just be an overview tab is, I think part of it as well is the watch list doesn't give you all the information about the target. You still gotta like find it on overview or know where they are in grid. Maybe lock them up to see that information.
I mean, I've always been a loud voice. There's plenty of loud voices about this, but I think I'm among them of people who think that the automation of security in the game is actually a bad thing, but it often clashes with what would be genuine quality of life changes. So I think that that's kind of both your suggestion there, Luke. I think it's a really good quality of life change and an automated nerf against sabotage, which definitely needs to be a thing. Shouldn't put any more barriers in front of.
You might have to try a bit harder to sabotage. It doesn't outright remove sabotage.
I mean, I might argue that as part of a very large group, if you're going to recruit basically anybody, that's kind of your problem for you needing to try a bit harder with your vetting.
Don't think that restricting types of ships for the fleet prevent them from being able to sabotage it.
Oh no, I don't think it's going to prevent it whatsoever.
And it's
I
not
think
going to make
just
it harder.
adding an extra it's
Well,
automating a barrier rather than leaving that within the players on both sides'
They
hands.
should have left conduit in by default. They shouldn't have had the flag exempt from conduit, in my opinion.
But in regards to your kind of like recon point, I don't remember the last time our fleet was hot dropped by a hostile recon being in fleet.
Okay.
I get your point.
Okay.
But on to other
Maybe
good
those
ideas.
maybe somewhere else.
Asher in the chat says ideally you should be able to press F1 and have his whole fleet fire at once. I'm with that. I think that would be really cool to see.
I think the character of Redline is on board with that.
They must say Zug Zug though. I'm pretty sure. It's
Exactly.
Like the qualifier.
Look,
Yeah, you can't only read half of the quote.
FCing a big fleet already feels like an RTS. If they say Zug Zug, it's gonna feel like I'm playing Warcraft 3 back into and like
except half of the units will still have a learning disability of some kind, and that's what makes Eve great. That's I'm stealing more Asher lines as a matter of fact.
I tell you what, in that world where you could fire your fleet's guns and turn their props on as well, it would really absolutely solidly protect the diss of calling these people NPCs. But
Job's done. Look, you don't have to call them in. They're line members.
Because right now they're controlling their ships.
There's way better words.
No. Line members, friends, countrymen, compatriots,
never mind.
buddies, those kinds of things.
Advanced drones.
Bearing skill bracket with Redline.
Hey, that's not
all right.
right.
Hey, listen. We've got another change to the game, and Kaz and Luke, this is really directed at you. We have a brand new sensor booster icon.
Oh my god.
And I really desperately need you to impress upon CCP that it is not in keeping with the visual style of all of our wonderful icons that we currently have, and not to do any more.
Let me send you something from I've already made suggestions. Let me find it.
It feels like I'm listening to someone read Reddit to me. No, I don't like it.
Pull that up on stream.
I'm going to send it to backstage text. That's for you, Redline, that Sven just sent me. That's the comparison there.
I'm not putting that on the screen.
The left is the old one, the middle is the new one, the right is my proposed change.
I don't see a problem with the current initial one. I can see the need for differentiation between modules that use the same icon.
They want to slowly update some of it. I mean, they are
really
kind
don't
of
want them to.
A little janky looking, a little bit. I think
I tell you what I want.
Used to it, but
I tell you what I like. How many of you were playing when CCP briefly flirted with having the gun icons be screenshots of the weapon models?
God, that was so horrible.
I think they should do the opposite. They should make
it
those
a
3D models
time ago.
Match
it was
icons.
Yeah, but the problem is those models. We use we use icons which, what's the word I'm looking for here? The word's
More
not coming.
abstract?
Thank you.
Like
Exactly that.
abstracted?
We
Yeah.
use icons that abstract to signify a purpose rather than a visual indicator of exactly what it is, so that we have fast understanding. And on top of that, we use these abstracted, in a way, almost cartoonish icons because they are appealing. They're visually appealing. All of Eve's icons for the modules are colourful. They are visually appealing, they are nice to look at, and they give you a quick indication of what the module does, and they are well differentiated from each other, aside from the ones that are literally identical.
Yeah.
This has been
what
your
I've been
101
pushing is-
course in semiotics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the burst jam being the same is really obnoxious. Targeted
Yep.
jam, burst jam, really annoying.
Yeah.
The
Basically, I'll tell you what I think of when I see this new sensor booster icon. And Redline, maybe you can make a poll, a yes or a no here.
Bro,
But what I
literally
see,
no one fucking cares about this, and I don't even know why you're talking about it. It's literally
listen,
just
listen,
the
we
two
got, we
of
got, we
you.
got over 100 people. Just
Yeah.
listen, just
Yeah.
type yes or no in chat. Do you agree? The
It-
new
it-
sensor
type-
booster icon makes
type-
it look like a
boring.
mobile game icon.
It does.
rather
Type
it
than-
does.
Zug
It looks
Zug
like
in the
an
chat
e-tag
if you
does.
agree with Phantomite, or if you
I'd rather
don't
see
care.
Zug Zug from
Type Zug
literally
Zug if you
everyone.
don't care. Please.
No, you can't have Zug be both.
No, you said type there. You said type something, and I said type Zug Zug if you don't care. Exactly.
listen.
Next topic.
Listen,
Listen, the
I'll do
person who
next topic,
just
but let me
subscribed.
boil it down.
This guy just
Let me
gave me
boil it down.
$5 and says next topic. Okay, that's
Okay, fine. All right. Hey, listen, that's what it is. You give Redline money and he pushes it along. Okay. You give him. Tell you what. Anybody sends Redline $50 right now, he'll just
Whoa.
end the stream.
That's
I
not
guarantee
true.
it.
That is absolutely not true.
All right, guys. Hey, listen. We have had warp speeds normalized between ship sizes. Any thoughts on that?
Thank goodness. It's about time.
Yeah. It's I don't know if anyone played a long time ago when
Yes.
everything warped the same speed. Do you remember that? Everything
Yes.
warped the exact same speed.
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
That was fucking wild. I thought that's what they're gonna go back to, but thank God they didn't. The new
It's-
one's not bad. I thought it'd be
It's not
horrible,
bad.
but it's decent.
I contest CCP's. I mean, they're the ones with the data, right? I'm not talking to 1,000 new players here, right? But I feel a bit skeptical about their claim that the previous differing warp speeds between ships were overwhelmingly difficult for people to ever understand.
I just don't think for most people, like if you don't understand or if you can't understand the differences, I don't think it mattered to your gameplay like at all.
Yeah, it doesn't matter
Other
to my
than
gameplay at
bigger
all.
number is better. Like if you want to travel places.
Exactly.
the
Yeah, the smaller. Like if I
0.5
want to
difference
go, I want to fly
between-
an interceptor. I want to travel. Warps faster. Sense?
Like I don't think it's a bad change per se, but I don't think it's necessary to spend dev time on this either. TBH.
It's I mean, this is a values
Oh my.
change, isn't it? Here, it's
Yeah.
it's not a
Yeah.
lot of dev time. It's a meeting to make a decision, and then it's literally 5 minutes
It's not
editing.
even worth even that though, right? Like writing up the blog post on it was more effort than I think that should have gotten. But
I don't know.
It's true.
They
The
should've let me
HTML for
write
the
the blog
table
post.
probably.
thing is, it's a weird
But
one,
that's
right? Because for a lot of people, it probably makes sense. But I think if new players get confused by it, and Eve is a reasonably confusing game for new players, it's a really simple change. And if it helps new players understand the game more, bully for it. It's more players that can understand the game and may stick
fair.
around rather than being, what's this weird? Why are these two ships different? I don't really understand this. And actually, the reality was it was always just an arbitrary reason. So if normalizing it makes it a bit more approachable a game for new players, I think that's fine.
Well, to some extent, but I would argue that it was a nice like set of sprinkles on top of, say, a hack over a cruiser, you know, especially in a fleet setting. In a fleet context, your your fleet of zealots and Deimoses warping half an AU faster than a fleet of Navy Omens, was a little edge for having spent 15 times as much on the ship,
Yeah, good clarification update. We like it. Thank you.
We have another change. There's endless numbers of these changes. This is actually a fairly important one. We've got spool ups on. That's all types of filaments, isn't it?
Yeah, every single one.
Unfortunately,
All
for
of them.
whatever reason, for seemingly no
God.
reason at all. Thank God for what, dude?
What do you mean for
Dude.
no reason? There's like a logical.
What?
Yeah,
Show
fucking-
me, show me on the doll where the filament hurt you.
Well, not
Come
so much
on.
hurt me,
It's
right?
just
It basically waters
Whoa.
down. No, not so much it hurt me, right? It basically waters down the ability for any group to project. You can't have small gangers fucking goon and jork over the fact that Ansplex got nerfed and then not like actually holistically look at filaments. Filaments let you go randomly anywhere, which is great. You should be able to go randomly anywhere, whatever. I played since 2009. That shit's fucking stupid. But whatever, it's what most people want to do because the average person that plays MMOs now watches TikTok or some shit. But now, something scary happens. Instead of like trying to find a way out, you just bounce around safes or go to an ESS grid, burn off so no one can warp to you, and then just go to a safe and filament out. That doesn't make any fucking sense. It's stupid as shit. And Snuffed Out, we did that against Frat. You'd have a whole fleet of fucking Nightmares, Macarials, Tempest, whatever the fuck it is, go on the nullsec, harass Frat, find an ESS, split up into a bunch of 15-man fleets, Parchment filament, wait 15 minutes, we're back in Black Rise. That's fucking stupid. And it's a good thing that CCP actually did something that made sense. The smaller filaments have a very short spool up. So if it's you by yourself doing some, I don't know, exploration or something because you don't know how to fucking macro in Botchman, or if it's you and like 5 dudes, it's not that long of a spool up. The ability for a fleet to just press a button and disappear is silly, and I think it's been a pretty good change.
I think one of the lesser known use cases, but still really annoying, is when you're doing PvE, like the rat aggression timer doesn't count towards it. So I've had fleets just filament out in front of me in Pochvan. After running a site, warping to a perch like on the station grid and just filamenting out the high sec. The spool up's good. I don't know.
I mean, something that CCP has seemingly an opinion that they seem to have always held, which I really wish they would sometimes figure out how to make an exception for, is their idea of never remove a feature from the game. I think it's a incredibly self-limiting thing to them to say that because something is here, it has to now be here forever. And I specifically mean the needlejack filaments, the go-to nullsec filaments. They were introduced as a brief novelty item and then just decided to keep them because people liked them. But they were introduced at a time which was, and we'll get onto this later, but they were introduced at a time of full supercap supremacy, umbrella fleets, Rorquals everywhere, and full power Ansiblex all over the place. They gave people an in to fortresses, but randomized. But despite what I'm known for talking about a lot, that's not the case currently. That's not the state of nullsec at this moment, which is what they are invented for.
Yeah, I think what I like the most in this sort of, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself with topics, is that with both of these changes, both filaments and what happened to Ansiblex, the primary thing going on is something that requires engagement from an opposing player or set of players to have an effect, right? This filament change, if you are not being pursued, if no one's coming after you, it really doesn't affect you at all. It takes an extra minute or two, right? But if someone is willing to put in the slightest bit of effort, all of a sudden you might have a problem where you previously had essentially total safety, right? And it's the same logic I can see applying with what they did with Ansiblex, even though it's not a sort of gigantic smash hammer type nerf, right? If someone is opposing you on your Ansiblex, they now have more options to do it with. They can try and stall you, even if they're not going to shoot the thing directly. They can slow down a set of reinforcement fleets, especially for a big fight where it takes a long time, and there possibly are many fleets trying to get through that jump bridge. I can see it getting all fucked up, as the case might be. So I think that logic, it's good to see CCP apply that and invite players to create some emergent gameplay and give them a few mechanical tools to do it without just totally overthrowing the meta in some way,
Well, I personally don't think that this is a big enough nerf to Ansiblex projection power. I do think that this is a really, like you said, interesting way to be able to actively disrupt the power of Ansies. Before with the way that the damage caps worked and the basically invulnerability of people jumping into Ansies is you could just not ever do anything about it. Right, like during World War
yeah.
B2, I think it was a 3-tech D fight. Like the entire 3-hour tie-dye brawl, we were shooting the ANSI, and goons were just sending in reinforcements through the same ANSI we were shooting, and there was nothing we could do about it, and it repaired in real time as soon as like some drones got cleared. Right, like this actually gives you now better tools to disrupt, and it requires effort from the attacker as well, not just a straight like nerf passively,
Right, yeah.
basically.
And it's not a straight nerf to the defending side either. The Ansiblex holder gets a benefit here in saying if someone is just dinner belling me and they're revving my Ansiblex and I have to go sit there for half an hour just to wait for it to repair and I know they're not going to show up, suddenly they don't have to do that. I've heard this got to be a half a dozen times in the last 2 days about we'll just bring your fleet to rep it, right? And that's better for the defender in that case. It prevents sort of the low effort attack trolling that otherwise can happen with those flex structure timers.
Yeah,
We have a comment from Asher. He says he wants to push back on saying filaments were introduced as a novelty item. He says that Rise wanted to introduce new mobility options, and he went around asking players for suggestions. The introduction was to test to see if players enjoyed them. It wasn't intended to be a novelty. It was to see if people hated it or not. Sure, okay, yeah, all right. I'll run with that. In which case, that represents a really horrible time for balance for the game, in which which
it represents
does
the present.
It does because
it's a way to
filaments
get
were
through the
added as
empty
like
space.
a band-aid on a band-aid on a band-aid. They weren't looking at the actual problems at the time, which is why they had to introduce them in the first place.
So look, Fancy, the fix to why we needed filaments was because there's so much empty space in nullsec, so we needed a way to just zap to where people were actively doing stuff within a few jumps. You know, maybe they were mining, maybe they were crabbing, ratting, whatever.
You're ignoring the point that yes, a filament allows you to just ignore all fucking geography, all gate camps, all dead end systems, and leapfrog over it. It's dumb. It removes strategic reasons to control certain gates and certain regions and all the rest of it. It's a terrible addition, and it always has been.
The way that I see it is like, if you look at other MMOs, like for example, WoW, a lot of features were added to speed up and make content easier and finding content easier, like with LFR.
Exactly.
And I think this is like a pretty analogous situation where people wanted the quick, easy content, but it kind of took away a lot more secondary like effects of the lack of that easy access to roaming content and access to space.
I would also
go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say I would also point out that if you're trying to take away people's need to travel to the action, and I'm talking about filamenters here, not null blocks using Ansiblex, then them traveling is content. Them traveling is ships in space. It's going to gate. It is going from vulnerable position to vulnerable position. It is encouraging people who want to go out and raid nullsec to do their best to stage as close to the content as possible, rather than being able to just do it from Jita.
Not.
I also think it kind of killed.
Not what it's going to do
like
at all. Just going to make it. Well, it's not going to do anything to stop that, I guess.
Kill Barrett.
I maintain
but,
that.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Entire concept of shortening travel distances and avoiding and giving people ways to avoid needing to travel to places, be they elite nanogangers or null blocks, is removal of content opportunities from the game.
You're right. I agree. And I have a suggestion. Rather than filaments, and you're going to have to hear me out on this, I think that they should just Thanos snap half of all nullsec systems into a different Poshvin-like region. It's
Stop him!
just
Somebody stop him!
nope. Nope. In front of
Get
all
him
these
off.
people, I'm
What-
saying it.
For what purpose, Redline? What purpose?
What purpose? To create a lawless space that is like this nullsec space, but it has faction warfare mechanics for
But
sovereignty.
lawlesser? Wait, but that sounds
We-
like more law than
It just
less.
can't be
Site
claimed. It can't be
restrictions.
claimed.
Nullsec is the whole point of
Okay.
nullsec is that the law is of the players that own that
Yeah,
space.
nullsec isn't lawless space. It's controlled by empires that are just not the traditional empires that define the laws. Like NPC null is probably the closest to lawless.
Right, correct. So this
Nullsec
this
is
new
Concord
space,
saying, "Screw it, you do it."
this new space would be completely lawless. Everything there.
But how do you
Well,
stop?
all right. So if
Completely
CCG ever needs to
hostile.
hire someone that moans when they wipe, then your idea would probably like be phenomenal, right? But why would you make, in essence, an NPC nullsec that follows the guidelines or the charter of faction warfare?
Just
That's
for
essentially
fun.
what you want, right?
Yeah.
Like
For
NPC
fun?
nullsec
Pick a
is some of the
team.
most dead space.
No,
in
no,
the
no.
game.
Pick a team. Fight for that team in this new
Yeah,
space.
it's called
It
faction.
doesn't matter
Doesn't
what
sound-
alliance you're in.
doesn't
Doesn't
sound
matter
very
what corp you're in.
sandboxy.
Also,
It doesn't sound very sandboxy,
it's
but it
already
sounds
pick
super
a team
fun.
and go do what you want. You pick what block you want to join or what like null group you want to join. Or if you don't, go pick which one you want to go
Ow.
harass.
Hold on.
Like
I'm looking up Redline Sea Kill. Give me a second.
There
They
are
have-
Oh no, no,
lots
don't do
of-
that! Don't do that!
In their wisdom, the powers that be have decided that players who want such content may not use warp disruption bubbles. That's just how it is, right?
I guess. I don't know. There are lots of comments in the chat here. Hold up. I gotta say, nothing will make Redline happy unless every nullsec player dangles their balls out while he holds a baseball bat. And I think you misspelled
Redline only.
Phantomite. I think you misspelled Phantomite and you put my name instead. But also the new systems wouldn't be empty. They would be on rails. People would do it. People would come from low sec. They would come from high sec to do this new fun activity.
Faction war, but with bubbles. But
Faction
you
war,
can
but
already
with
get
bubbles.
we already have that.
You can already get
Yeah.
bubbles with
And it
corruption,
sucks.
right?
Fuck.
I mean,
bubbles
yeah,
and nullsec.
The most
temporarily.
horrible part of it, yes.
Also, the fact that the disruptive lance works in low sec, just outside of corruption, is still just a mystery to me. I'm gonna be honest.
It's
And
a
the fact
beautiful
that
thing.
like
We tried
Titans
to
can't
tell 'em.
lance, also just I don't know, cherry on top.
Black Rise Special.
Yeah, it was a interesting decision there.
Which region is Igniton in?
That'd be a single zone.
Thank you. Well, we are kind of we've slipped into. I mean, so many subjects about Eve slip into Ansiblex, and that's where we had
I mean,
to
they do.
by
They
nature of
do
the
roll
topic.
around mysteriously. Yes.
Hey, listen, I didn't bring it up this time.
Phantomite, you've
True,
been,
it was, you can,
you've been the one
you
to
can
bring it up
technically blame
repeatedly.
me.
No, it was Phantomite. We only blame
Well,
Phantomite.
hey, listen, Kaz, I don't have to blame you. It's highly relevant, is the point. It's hugely
is.
relevant.
Yes.
So, who here has utilized the new offensive capabilities around
much fun.
disrupting people? You
So
have
much
been,
fun.
Wally?
Oh yeah, so much fun. 2 different Ansiblexes now. Very fun.
Oh yeah. So I'm not talking about shooting the Ansiblexes, but
Oh, me
about
neither.
the
just
cool attack
setting,
things.
Yeah, there's
setting
no
on
point.
set on an Ansiblex and an interdictor, huh?
Yeah, I mean, look,
I
EC
love being
Pater,
called a
12
cheater.
jumps. 12 jumps away from
Easy.
Jita the day that the patch went live. Went there with the Dictor, watched the other side with the Sino, and sat there with the Beam Legion it on, or just fragging out, having fun.
That's it.
Like when
That's all it
Lances
is.
came out, Lance people on NPC stations
Oh yeah.
called the cheater.
Have many of us? Well, most of us have. It's a silly question. What kind of complaints and what kind of volume of complaints against these changes have you
Well-
guys been hearing from your players?
So the complaints I got, I can't say on stream, but they're colorful. They're I don't know, people just a failure to adapt like any MMO, any RTS, any
I
game
don't
they
think
ever
so.
play. Mechanics
on.
happen. You find a way to adapt. You find a way to use it to your advantage, and some people are just slow.
So I have to say, I have a complaint. I don't think that making it so that you can't go through the gate when you're warp disrupted, I don't think that that's a fair approach. unless you make the same change to regular Stargates. I know they changed
Let me
the
ask you a
name,
question. No,
but that doesn't
I hear what you're
count.
saying.
But
Did
I
you play
think
when jump bridges existed on
I
Haas's Redline?
did, in fact, yeah.
You did? Did you utilize them, or were you in
did,
ISEC
in
at that time?
fact, yeah.
Okay, well, that's how they work, because they're essentially a bridge, right? Can you use a bridge when you're bubbled or pointed, Redline?
I don't remember if you could.
You can't. There's not a single instance of that in the game where that was a thing.
Yeah,
So it's a
no,
bridge.
because
It's no
like
longer an Ansplox
every jump
gate.
bridge that I ever used had like a shit ton of guns around it. So like anything that wasn't on my team that warped close got killed immediately.
Do you
So
know what
like
you can do to those guns?
Who
Yeah.
here can tell me whether
what can
they
I
are
do?
able to
I have to
bridge through a
bring
Titan while pointed?
What I can do to those guns,
Cannot.
Wally, is I can shoot those guns, but I need a whole fleet to do that instead
Absolutely
of just
not.
some
What you
idiot
could
in
do-
a saber with a Sino, which is
Yeah,
Actually-
spend your
you
own
were
space.
doing.
Go kill the
Yeah.
Go kill the saber.
Go kill it. Yeah, you are the guns now. A removal of anything automated is positive for the game. It puts
No,
you-
that's fine.
Also,
I understand,
quite
but
frankly,
you're
listen.
comparing.
If you want to be able to jump
Targets
while you
also
are
have guns.
if you want to be able to jump while you are pointed or bubbled, then the Stargate network is right there for everybody to use. You could use that instead.
If you want to ignore the geographical downsides of the area that you live in, you need to accept that there's going to be downsides to that. Like
Fringe
for a
take.
while,
Exactly.
I'm pretty
It's
sure
the
the number of jumps to get from 4H to what was the previous init staging?
B170.
B17 through Zarzak was closer than to get from the edge of Dronelands to MJ gate-wise. Like the amount of jumps that Ansiblexes skip, I think warrant all of these penalties.
I mean, Ansiblexes are
And what penalties are they?
Are firmly in the grasp and use of people who are huge team workers. Ansiblexes are exclusively positioned by people who are members of the biggest teamwork groups in the game, and that is the obvious answer to traveling with a higher level of safety through them: is move as a team.
Or, have a perch that if you're unsure and you have no scout, just do what we used to have to do: warp to a perch and just check if the gate is fucked, if there's a red in system.
Things even blistering morons can master from the Dark Ages. Yes.
I mean, to be fair, perch doesn't stop an issue if you jump to the other side, though, and there is a bubble on the other side,
Right,
which
yeah.
is a bit weird.
Then you
Or you
that's
land on
a
the
Everybody's got
teamwork
pretty
Ansplox,
good
aspect,
no one
intel
isn't it?
can poke the
networks,
bubbles.
right? Like you gotta watch the intel channels, see if one of the systems that a hostile was linked in is like on your route or near your route. Might be camping.
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree with Phantomite in. Maybe we shouldn't clip that, right? In terms of the basic analysis of like, you have to your own space to put these up, to use them completely safely. Maybe that's not something you can do solo. Like, yes, they are worse than POS now in a sense, right? POS had some automated defenses, and I don't think I think that's a design space that should be explored again. But nevertheless, it's not the end of the world. Probably the change I disagree most with is the moving them way the far off Stargates, because I think that two different things happening on the same grid is actually a really cool part of Modern Eve, and there should be more of that. But I understand why they did that. I guess my answer to the question that started this is the complaining has been relatively muted. I was only asked one time, Kazanir, can you find out which numpty at CCP was responsible for the Ansible exchanges? That's relatively muted. And like I said earlier, couldn't be happier with them going with a substantial feeling, yet not complete game overthrow set of changes to see how those play out, especially one that's focused on what actions players will or will not take to oppose the Ansiblex holder, so to speak. So I guess couldn't be happier if we were going to see an Ansiblex nerf. This is pretty sound
exactly.
I will say
initial
the
attempt, right?
I will say the bubble interaction one is a bit weird, just because historically, if you warp, so if you talk about warp disruption bubbles, obviously you only get sucked into it if the bubble is up by the time you enter warp. And there is a slightly weird interaction that if there was a neutral in local and you're not paying attention and you warp to a gate and the bubble goes up while you're in warp and therefore not affecting your warp, it still stops you taking the gate.
You get through
That's
the gate,
a
right,
slightly
but not
odd behavior.
that
I-
no
I-
longer work. It doesn't work with an Ansiblex because it'll be
wanted
up on the
to-
bridge and then you can't take it. Yeah.
wanted to address someone saying that, God forbid they spend a lot of money for something in their own space to be used in this way. I just think that's fucking dumb. So first off, Ansplex are about a bill, right? Sob Hub, 600 to 800 mil, depending if you build it yourself. The logistics network plugin, 600 mil. You're talking about fatigue-free projection for about 2.2 bill. You can't do that anywhere.
Fatigue-free for now, Wally.
Yeah, for now. Eventually,
Wally, did
we'll
you
rise up.
enjoy being leadership in what was it? Enjoy leading that alliance?
Up until the last part, yeah. Why?
No, I was just curious. Because I
Yeah,
think
and
that's
fan
kind of
disorder.
it's not
And A4D.
it's not necessarily the ISK cost, it's also the time investment. Because like to me, time is money. So like people have to put a lot of time.
and then warping
No,
off.
no. There's
The
also
waiting-
the
no, you gotta
managing
wait a
of the
couple weeks.
alliance that all of the
Yeah,
people
but that's
belong
a
to.
spread time
It's
investment
defending the
among
space
thousands.
in
Like,
general.
Yeah.
It's having a team of people to go out there and fuel things, which now
I will
also
I
have
will
to
tell
go
you
out and
for real.
repair them for some reason.
Good.
I want to talk
If-
about that change because that's the next one on the list.
So,
And
actually, I'll talk about the repair thing for you right now. I
Okay,
witnessed
do
7
it.
Pospreys rep it in 1 minute and 13 seconds.
Okay.
It's 500,000 EHP. Like, you can go dilate anywhere you fucking want. That shit gets repped in no time at all if you actually have a fleet, right? So
Yeah,
that's
but
a
you
non-issue.
actually just have to
You don't
go
have to
out to
wait.
it.
You don't have to wait 30 minutes like you used to. It helps everyone.
100%. Yep.
Okay,
exactly.
but what
when
happens if
I-
no one goes out there? That's my question.
Then
Then
why the
you
fuck
don't
should you
deserve to
have?
No.
have
I'm
the
just
fuck, dude?
curious. I'm curious what
Well,
happens
you
if
don't
no
go out
one
there.
goes out there.
What if you have 10 dogs and you don't feed them? Redline, what happens?
They sit there
The
and
fuck?
slowly
die.
You shouldn't
self
have them.
Good
No,
grief,
but
Wally,
does-
that
but
sounded like
listen,
a
It's
very
an ant
personal
Do you not
accusation.
know?
Just-
Do you
No,
not
the
know?
point- Do I not know
like,
what?
It's like moon drills. If
Do
you
you
want the
not know
passive
what
income,
happens
you need to put
if
the
no one
effort
shows
in.
up? So does the Ansible
it
just
stays
stay
offline.
unusable?
This exact same thing
Yeah.
as a Metanox. It stays offline until it's 100%. You can either rep the armor or the shield. It completely depends on you. I personally use Rediva, so it's quicker than an Osprey. But it works the exact same way that a Metanox does. In fact,
You're
if you want
actually wrong, but
Oh, sorry, it doesn't get any. It doesn't get fucking moon goat. But if you want to be an asshole, you rep it all of it, or you destroy all of its shield, do half of its fucking armor. They have to rep both the armor and the shield, and it has 4 times the EHP. That's how you actually harass a large group, right? But it's way more fun to just put a cloak dictor on there. Way more fun.
I mean, additionally, you don't
Does
have to
sound
rep these
fun.
things if you decide not to use them anyway. So
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I think the active maintenance of these is good. Again, it's chips out in space. It's people needing to form stuff. It's people putting stuff out. Like, because if you put cheap T1 logistics cruisers out, those die to a single cruiser, right? But if you put a fax out and you want to do it like with one person really quickly, then you're risking a fax. I don't know. I think it's a good change.
I think
it works well with Metanoxes. Like, you see groups spread too thin and then lose a bunch of Metanoxes because they don't have the manpower to go repair them all.
This is like this feels like a sort of slow, painful process of a piece by piece return to the mining pos meta that we used to have in the past. You had to repair those. You had to go and maintain those. You had to go and pull the goo out of them periodically, and it was good times.
I mean, is that what you do with Metanoxes?
That's exactly what you do with Metanox, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got Metanoxes. You know, we're getting the same paradigm with how you deal with Ansiblexes to maintain them.
I see CCP putting a magnifying glass on Sprawl. If anyone's played a 4X game, Sprawl's a thing. You can't go too far. You're going to tire yourself out. There's too much logistics. This Ansplex is basically a Sprawl nerf. If you have an Ansplex and bumfuck nowhere that used to be 4 Ansplex to get to and now it's 32 jumps, have fun, dude. Like, you're not going to have a good time. And I think it's finally finding a way to clip these gigantic... Like, look at Goons. They went from Delve to wherever the fuck they are now. And they're using a quarter of the space that they need to. They're actually, like, concentrating themselves. They're doing what I think a pretty smart move. Then you got groups like Frat. How many fucking gates to go from one side of Frat space to the other is it, right? Astronomical. This Ansplex change is going to start making space a bit bigger. Small
mean,
space.
And
Yeah.
these sprawling empires would be easier to maintain if you split your super large group into smaller groups and based them close to the edges.
I was just gonna say that I think the I've talked about this on a show a while ago. I think these sort of anti-sprawl changes are the way that they're kind of trying to split these big groups apart. That plus the SOV changes that they did with the upgrades and stuff, kind of spread people out, but yet make sprawl harder, making it harder to stage in one system with 50,000 of your closest friends. Kind of through the mechanics, like softly pushing people to kind of stage separately from the rest of their coalition.
But my 49,999 friends and I all like each other so much.
You can still be blue, just like smaller standing.
And we
like
are.
if you stage apart, there's smaller standing fleets. The cap responses are a little harder to manage. Makes people more vulnerable, but I think it also leads to potentially more larger scale conflict, because if everyone isn't living together, it's a lot easier to kind of see them as like a them group and a separate group from your own. So it could potentially lead to a lot more political turmoil that I think we've kind of lost in the last couple of years. Like, it's pretty calcified with the
Sven,
main
would I
groups
be
in
right
most
in
of
saying that one aspect that you're touching upon here is the idea of creating multiple subcultures within the big culture of the big group, thereby causing them to all start having their own stories and potentially friction?
I mean, yeah, you want to increase friction. It's just, I think that's the only way that we're going to break up the massive blocks that we have today.
Well, a quick question in chat. It says, "Fan, should fleets have max fleet sizes reintroduced?" No. Anyway, moving back to Ansible X and splitting people up.
We already do have max fleet sizes, don't we?
Yeah, I think he's getting at fleets being clipped to artificially limit fleet sizes lower.
Yeah.
It's 256, isn't it not?
It is, yeah.
It is.
They're talking about the old school where you had limited fleet size based on certain skills that you had, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's, I mean, meh.
Bring back passive boost then.
I think anything that increases tedium in the game is bad, and a lot of changing just.
Yeah, but ultimately, Redline, that is your choice as the player. How much tedium you engage with.
What do you mean? How is that my
So
choice?
like,
as the
if you
player?
want to enjoy the benefits of ignoring the geography of the space you live in, then you need to engage with these semi-tedious mechanics.
I think tedium is best described as something that you have to do at a certain time or something bad happens, where there's lots of gameplay in Eve that on its own sort of feels tedious. Like we haven't talked about mining at all, for example. I'm sure that's coming. A lot of people would find mining tedious, but other people are like, hey, I can play Eve, I can jam with my friends, I can have a movie up, I can drag rocks into my Hulk, I can watch my Rorqual go vertical. Awesome, right? That is so. There's
another
this
good
balance,
change. Thank you.
I think. Yeah. That is that back? I didn't actually personally check.
It is.
Good.
Yeah, they got Blue Chew now.
So I think I'm wary of the
Fuck
word
off,
tedium
dude.
just because of that. There's lots of different gameplay in Eve at varying levels of clickiness, right? Different APM that can be supported, but people do not want, something where you have to put in a lot of effort just to feel like you've cleared this bar to participate. That sucks too. That's actually one of the great, people have, with Equinox, a bunch of soft changes happened, and suddenly there's a lot more effort maintaining all these skyhooks, where this is one of the strengths of the original POS-SOV design, was that if no one was fighting over it, maybe you only need one tower in a system. Boom, you've claimed it. It's done. You don't need to think about it anymore. We weren't going to campaign them to go back to that because, well, they're always going to make something new, and people ultimately hated POS-SOV also after many years of doing it. But that is where, when you say tedium, I think of what has to be done just to be participating, and is that annoying gameplay or not?
Yeah, I agree. If they made you bring something to take a gate, kind of like I don't know, maybe a key to take a Pochman PvE site, that'd be tedium, right? That'd be
Yes,
in order
that's
to
CDM.
initiate with aspects of the game, you must do this. And Ansiblex is not a mandatory thing in the game. It is not a way to it's nothing, right? It's something that you
Well,
create
what
to
if
make
they
things easier.
what if they made Ansible skates just public for everyone to use, no matter what?
Well, I mean, that's just as stupid, right? Because it's
Why?
still because it makes space smaller, Redline.
That
Because
space
now
should be smaller because it's empty.
No,
Absolutely not.
Redline, you should move closer to the action you want.
Stop
Yes.
living in test space, Redline.
We
Maybe
we
you'll
didn't get
find
into
more fights.
Yeah, we didn't get into fundamentals, but I think the sort of fundamentals of why Antiblex and old jump bridges exist are sound, right? Nullsec has dramatically more system count than lowsec or than highsec. It's really, really irritating to get around, and that creates a whole host of possibilities when you're in a wartime scenario. But to get around that, the defender has the opportunity to make their space somewhat smaller. Those are fundamentally sound principles that have played out in Eve. It's just that they took jump bridges, made them into Ansiblex, and they got too strong, right? Suddenly the definition of your space is as big as you can blue and set ACLs with no restrictions at all. And they lost a lot of the drawbacks of POS bridges. Of course, people were going to get tired of that at some point, and they did. But the basics of, hey, the defender has increased mobility within some radius of space that they are attempting to defend, that's a good one, right? And Nullsec's map is really designed around it and always has been.
I do want to respond quickly to Redline's point of space is really quiet. What is your current home system?
My current home system is Podion.
Okay. What is your home system of your alliance? Which is in Declan, a particularly quiet region. So, you know,
I don't
stay at
hang out
4H.
there. Sorry.
I stay at 4H. Vale has always got something going on. So there is an element of where you live as well, right? If you want to be in the middle of it and you want to have fun and be super busy, Vale is super busy usually. Normally people like Wally Marks turning around and fragging people on gates. But the point is, not all space is quiet. It's a generalization, right? Like if you want to go live in a really quiet part of space, you can, but there is also busy parts of space.
Yeah, no, see, the thing is
it's
that
not like
I'm
10 years ago busy, but it's still pretty busy.
For lack of a better comparison, in this instance, I am a guy like Wally Martz. I am the one going to somebody else's and trying to shoot them. And like to get someplace, I have to go gate after gate after gate, wormhole after wormhole, to finally run into something just to get killed by it, sure. But it's a lot of dead space. That's what I'm talking about. So wormholes,
I hear what
filaments.
you're saying, right? I hear what you're saying.
Go ahead, sorry.
It's so exactly what you're saying is something that I've had when I ran 2 different alliances. And you know what I did? I deployed. I found a spot somewhere close to the fringes of someone's space, lived at an NPC null or low sec, dropped the content citadel, gauged reactions. I mean, that is the art of EVE Online. If you want content, there's ways to do it. You're doing it inefficiently. Why is that the game's fault?
Me?
Right? You just said that you go gate to gate to gate to gate to find content.
Yeah.
Live where the content is.
I think that, you know, Redline, would I be right if I guessed that, and I do, to tell you how I feel about it, if I say that the available tools to deploy rather than commute daily to the content could do with a lot of improvement. I feel we need better tools to help us to move ourselves up our entire life and put our life down somewhere else. You know, we got jump freighters, we got carriers and dreads with SMAs.
No,
I feel
you need better tools to make a beachhead.
You need what?
Well, a beachhead still requires that you deploy to it, though.
Right? Yeah. No, it does. But there are plenty of ways to deploy your alliance. There are plenty of places to deploy your corporation. Like there's no shortage of places. But if you actually want to like break into somebody's space and start taking it, that requires a lot of effort. And none of the big groups are gonna just let you do that, no matter how inconvenient you make it.
Yeah, but surely there are some places closer
to actually make a difference, right? Like no shit, like a small group of players shouldn't be able to take soft from Horde or take soft from goons. With like no mechanic is going to exist to really like let you do that.
Not permanently at any rate.
Yeah, like
I mean, Eve should never be designed where, when it comes down to it, you know, there is somehow a tool that 10 people can use that 100 people can't, that allows the 10 to kill the 100.
I mean, I
you
don't
know?
think fundamentally you can really design something
No.
like that.
No.
Sure you can.
I
It's
also
for
don't
kids.
think that. I think there are plenty of tools of relocating all of your stuff. I think most people don't move because the secondary part is all of that just makes projection easier if moving stuff is easier. Like it can be used for tools.
I'll tell you what I was
for
getting at.
projection.
I'll tell you what I was getting at, Sven.
What's up,
I was getting at, you know, I was going to suggest something along the lines of doubling or tripling the SMA space in your carrier and your dread, that kind of thing.
I mean, I wouldn't be against something like that.
Because that's, you know, you've got fatigue when you're moving your carrier, when you're moving like 3 million meters of ships, and you're not going to move 3 million meters of ships for a single pilot to fly in one fight unless you're really bad at the game, right? But that is very much a tool for when you are lifting up your life and moving somewhere to live somewhere else, rather than
an SMA size buff would not be bad. I mean,
we got
there is
in
a jumbo
chat.
head. It's called use carriers or.
Well, we do, but in my mind, you know, I would like to see the vanilla bowhead, as an example, get a big buff to its storage space, but not gain a jump drive. And then I would like to see a Tech 2 bowhead with less space than a 3 million meter carrier, but it's got that reduction in fatigue, you know? Like maybe the jump bowhead has 1 million, but it's got that fatigue reduction, you know? Those are the kind of tools I'd like to see added to the game. A buffed SMA on capitals, buffed SMA on the bowhead, and the introduction of a limited capacity Tech 2 jump bowhead as well. People would buy them in droves.
Yeah. I mean, they have their use, right? Also, just real quick to answer a thing in chat, I don't think that tripling super SMA would make carriers obsolete again. I think the carrier conduit has very securely carved out like a use for carriers. Carrier conduit is very
probably
very
one of the
powerful.
best changes CCP made for smaller groups was the conduit.
Yeah,
That thing was
100%.
huge.
Well, it
I think
really
it kinda
starts to move the. Go on,
Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. Oh,
No, you go.
I think it made one of the few final remaining use cases for Titans a little obsolete, which really sucks because I don't know, Titans are cool. I like using them, but I think this is definitely a very useful way for carriers to actually not be just garbage.
The Poos Moose, I see your question in chat. They're used for links for like dread bombs and shit. You can secure all your links with that, and then they're also used pretty decently to shred battleships.
They're good for home defense.
That's a key thing there, right? Is that, you know, a paradigm that we used to have several years ago was that carriers simply became the new battleship. They simply became super brick general DPS dealers, where they could kill not just battleships, but they could kill your frigates and everything as well. And
frigates.
Their
capital
their massively general use, their ability to be incredibly general with their damage, was pure poison for the balance of the game.
That was about, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago when T3Ds were just introduced. You could be in defensive mode in a spitball that was 10 men fit and get killed by a nitty in seconds. Then that's when CCP did the flat nerf to all fighters, heavy and light, and then they.
Well, we got Hycorian in chat saying buff fighter application. I mean, I would say opinion absolutely not.
Why?
Because this starts to turn carriers back into general DPS.
So I agree with
I mean,
you.
they have general DPS, but with some very severe restrictions that normal
Yeah.
battleships don't have. Like you can get
Yeah.
defanged trivially. You have 0 mobility.
Yeah, but you
despite
talk
all
about
the ability changes,
defanging
right?
is a large fleet thing. It is not if you did this, then I tell you what's not happening is the small gang that comes around to now try and catch these carriers, which are now immediately the new ratters again since they got the application back.
So
means that they
I
just
will
get
agree with
solo
you.
shredded.
I
Bring
agree with
minute
you.
amounts of ECM. It's like the same
Yeah.
amount of E war to kill a marauder. It's more painful to kill a marauder than it is to kill a carrier. A marauder can solo a
Yeah,
carrier.
but that's no longer true ever
So-
since they became vulnerable to E-War.
So I don't believe that anybody wants the application back to where they hit something that was like 40 meters, right? No one's like going for that. No one's championing that, right? Currently, as it
yourself.
stands, a Cyclone Fleet issue takes, I think it was like 55% of the DPS from Nidhogger. That's double Omni. That
it's
sucks.
really bad.
That's pretty shitty. So I think what people would like is for battle cruisers to not have basically a half damage from a carrier, right? Battle cruisers are pretty big. They should be taking a sizable amount of damage. Logi cruisers are never going to get fucking hit by a carrier. I think the idea that a large carrier force should be able to deal with command ship fleets and battle cruiser fleets without needing 14 fucking Hugins, that'd be cool. I think that's kind of the first step of increasing their ability to apply to a target. Currently, they don't even 100% apply to a Macarial with 100 MN, right? Like, battleships do not take full damage from a carrier fleet. I've done many fucking carrier fleets. I've FC'd carrier fleets, and I've struggled to kill fucking Sleipnirs under webs and in wobbles. Probably not the healthiest thing for the game, but I also think that carriers should never go back to fucking deleting dictors. They should never go back to deleting simis that are 100 MN. That was horrible for the game.
I mean, what a lot of people are advocating for is, they talk about, oh, I want these carriers to apply better. But what I read behind that for, I would say easily half the people that say it is, I want to rat in a carrier again.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And on one
is cool.
hand,
That's such
on
a
the
good
one
thing
hand,
to hear.
ratting in a carrier puts a carrier into space. On the other hand, people did it almost exclusively under, at the time, the umbrellas. And they were doing it in something that was a massive brick that had way longer to live,
Yeah, and it's not a
to
brick
call
anymore.
for support.
There's not enough
They
time
also
to
had
save a
Sinos on
ratting.
carriers back
There's,
then.
Yeah.
there's not
What
enough
I would like to
time
see,
these days to
no,
save
what
a
I would
ratting
like to see
carrier.
is for
They get the job
carriers
done.
for CCP to continue to lean into carriers as a support ship for fleets.
Fuck that, dude. Make it a ratting ship like it used to be.
I think
Or go and fly a
ratting
high
needs to
angle.
make a
Go and fly a
comeback.
high angle high angle
You
I mean,
go
the trade-off
fly a
is
high angle rev.
you do like
I
2
wanna
to
kill
3 times the amount
carriers.
of DPS in a Hog Dread, but you are
A
locked
Hog
on grid for
Dread-
5 minutes, and you can
Right.
actually tank.
A Hodred is a niche anti-subcap thing for a specific situation. I don't think there's anything wrong with carriers gaining enough power to be back to the sort of general utility capital that does not have the drawbacks that Dread does, but does not escalate DPS in the same way, and having the high mobility they have now. It's also fair to say that the previous era, where they would delete any frigate or dictator-sized thing easily, was also not good, and that no one wants that back, and certainly not in that form, right? I think there's space even for carriers to have enough tools to try and deal with small subcaps, but that they should be giving up a lot in order to try and do that. They need to have vulnerabilities, but as chat points out, other things have changed too, not just the Sino stuff, which got a passing mention and should probably get a whole hour. But the fact that now costs are different. Dreads cost much less than a carrier, which didn't used to be the case. You can cost effectively dread bomb. If someone is out there dropping carriers and you just can't defang them because you don't have the people, you are the people who belong in dreads, right? That is their purpose. So I think there's a lot of stuff that has changed and that they should become great again, if you will. Not that great. No one liked where they could just delete any subcap, and as soon as you got past 50 carriers, no one could defang them either. That all needs some work. But they should have a space, and that space is the general purpose and utility capital, not just a support role, in my opinion.
I agree.
But
I
also
think
ratting.
I mean, yeah, I think ratting's
It's,
good. I think
it's a
bring it
good
on. One of the more
it's a
fundamental
good
issues is
active ratting ship.
Yeah.
Like if you actually think
teaches
about
people.
it, it's
Yeah.
carriers are great active ratting ships. It gets
Oh,
you out of
One of my
spitting
most YouTube videos is
Ishtars.
that.
I think
think
it's just like you look at the numbers, right? And like against a nano cruiser, like Ishtars are applying more DPS than carriers are. Like it's I think maybe not killing insta-fragging frigates, but they do definitely need some. They need to be a little bit scarier. They need to at least feel a little bit more secure. Because if the pilot thinks that he can clear off the tackle, then he's going to go out, right? Like even if they do end up bringing ECM and jamming the fighters, then there's nothing he can do about it. At least he was out because he felt like he could do something. Right now, it's very like carriers feel incredibly weak, regardless of their actual performance. I think and this is the same for supers, right? Like it feels very much like supers are very and carriers are very weak to literally any sort of threat or any sort of hostile ship, which I think is a very it just leads to nobody using them for anything.
Yeah, super
essentially.
carriers get it coming and going, right? They get it coming on the carriers have no role or have greatly weakened mechanics with fighters, and they get it on the we nerfed
Frost.
super capitals because they were too dominant and they lost all their EHP, and then we buffed dreads and took the dread power curve down another however many dozens of percentage points. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's a lot, right?
And then
All of
diminishing
which is
returns from
not
facts.
fixed. Yeah, right. Yes. Can't forget the bell of the ball, right?
Which is
Good God.
crazy. After 3
It's
faxes, the amount that's reduced is absolutely insane.
Yes.
like just for example, we're repairing a moon drill. We had a signal Minakawa and some Logi Lokis. We're already doing like 29% less HP per second repping the moon
Yep.
drill. Like it's the scaling is a way too aggressive.
You can
They went way too hard.
you can see in Python, you can add like multiple apostles to pretty much any ship, and you can see how quickly, like 5 apostles, the same rep power as I think it's like 2.2 or something ridiculous.
I have the numbers.
Okay, yeah, it's
It's
actually
really
insane.
So, assuming you have 3 enduring reps, and this is with Mind Link, there's Damnation Mind Linked links. There's some funny stuff with that, but with 1, it's roughly on like a fit to a applied to a well-fit avatar, roughly 2.5 dreads per apostle base, right? It's roughly 30k EHP per second. You go to 10, 15 dreads, that's okay. You double the number to 20, you're only adding 5 extra dreads of repping power. And if you go to 40 apostles, that's 4 extra dreads. And that's
It's
basically
insane.
where it caps out.
Yeah.
Like there are most groups in the game can field 24 dreads. And now suddenly all incoming armor reps are just completely countered.
Yeah, it's just tuned wrong, right? I understand where they were coming from because taking it back to first principles, like super caps, both super carries and titans should die more than average, right? That's the point of a lot of their mechanics, both the high DPS output of fighter bombers and the way a Doomsday on Doomsday fight shakes out, right? Is that at some point there is so much DPS that you can't rip through it, but they changed that line to be down at 2 to 3 dozen dreadnoughts. That's not that healthy either, because it just means they're so cost ineffective that they don't get fielded unless you are already dominant, right? No one is going to break out their grip of super capitals at whatever size, even if it's a size that hypothetically could take it to face down a 300 or 400 man dread fleet or what have you under these circumstances, because you're just going to lose too much before you can get enough DPS off the field. So something has got to change there, even though I think this is a risky change, right? You don't want to go back to a spot where you can field 75
Infinite
facts
faxes
and save
counter
anything, right?
Yeah.
Of course, would be horrible. But where they are now is clearly not good.
A big
And
catalyst of that too was Ha Titans. They could deal with any subcap fleet, and you
Yeah,
throw
right.
10, 20 facts on it, and you
And
don't
there's
have to
nothing
fucking
you
worry
can
about
do.
it.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it
I
as
think
well.
the secondary kicker is, I mean, there's 2 things, right? They're expensive. They are more expensive than both carriers and dreads now. And they can't even sustain their own capacitor running their reps under 0 cap pressure.
Thanks,
Due to
wormholers.
the capacitor buffs, or capacitor nerfs. Another funny,
Fucking wormholers, yeah.
funny little side.
I won't say anything more. I'm gonna start getting mad DMs, right? But yeah.
Side thing is the formula for calculating the diminishing returns on remote reps rounds the tick value. So when you're high into that curve, so you have like 20, 30 faxes, running stronger links can actually lower your EHP per second because it bumps you under that. It changes it
It hits the
from
threshold.
3.01 second cycle time to 2.9 second cycle time, and now suddenly the game thinks you're repping like 30% more per rep, even though you're actually doing 0.03 seconds of cycle time.
I love discrete math. That's what I
it's
learned today.
Tragic.
Yeah, it sucks.
Well,
yeah, and
what the fuck was the original topic?
Carriers.
I don't even remember anymore.
I mean, I think this
Okay,
all
God.
kind of
Math,
ties
please.
into it. Like in the capital space, there is no real use case for anything other than brawl dreads, because there's no real engaging targets in nullsec ratting in carriers. The only things are very stationary, safe crab beacon supers.
Well, or citadels, which have their own rack of issues and don't favor capital escalations at all, or a
that's
Sav
another
fight, which
episode,
also-
isn't it?
Yeah,
Sure,
and
right. Yeah, it is. And
there is no
or a
escalation
Sav
above.
fight.
There is no escalation above dreads because of how cost inefficient and just weak the rest of the chain is.
Yep, 100%.
I think that's the most unfortunate part. So like, if they would just make all of the capitals better, that would work out well. Keep the application the same on carriers, but give them more damage. A lot more damage. So if they actually hit something, it does a lot. I don't know.
You gotta be pretty specific and deliberate with the changes to this, because if you overstep certain thresholds, now it suddenly becomes incredibly annoying to fight big blocks again. Just due to the fact that we do have capital proliferation, you got to keep that in mind, because it's just not going to be fun to fight 100 supers all with their fighters on the gate if you're trying to take a system. There's a balance to be found, but we're very much not there at the moment.
Perhaps costs is something that we can segue to, not just of carriers and dreads, dreads in particular, which are not just a bit cheaper but have become massively cheaper. But I wanted to talk about battleships, the classic supposed mainstay of large fleet fights, which has been quite lacking for several years, not just for cost reasons, but also for ship balance reasons over the last decade. I can see you sort of going sort of not.
So I don't know. I guess if you look like why do we see battleships in nullsec now, right? It's because hacks got they got neutered. So you see a lot of battleship fleets. Yes, yeah. And and they just got back their SIG, which is kind of cool, I guess. But I like that they reduced the cost of battleships, because now they are starting to compete in the same spaces that the attrition like FNIs and sci-fis have fucking basically created, right? But even in those bubbles where they are the best doctrine, there's still battleships, even with the old price, perform relatively well and receive reps through fax pretty fucking well too. So what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to articulate is, if you had a problem with Ferox navies now, you are fucked when it's nothing but rogues. It's going to be absolutely insane. Now, it does have that other side of it where bombing fleets are going to be far more prevalent. Burst jamming Viters are going to be hilarious. You guys are going to rage so hard about that shit. I can't wait. It's just we're starting to see, like when Eve went from Ishtar Online to Tengu Online, we're now watching BC Online go to Battleship Online. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be pretty funny for the next couple of months.
I do wonder if the price of Navy battle cruisers, namely, like the Cyclone fleet issue, is going to is going to drop, obviously due to just demand, because I believe that the mineral requirements for those were not changed, were they?
Nope.
No, so it's going to be demand based that potentially lowers their price. If people are going to see battleships as a more high value option.
I mean, it feels like those are very tied to just LP prices, and I don't feel like those are going to be changing all that much.
Well, yeah, so LP is probably going to spike here soon. A lot of the algo spots and all that were just free farming. They're gone. You can't do that shit anymore. So you're going to have a similar demand, far less supply. That shit's going to spike, right? But on the counter to that, a lot of the non-faction battlecruisers, and specifically battleships, not only did the price get reduced by the change for battleships, I'm not talking about battlecruisers, I know some fucking spur's going to talk about it in chat, but across the board, all 2-1 ships are going to get cheaper now that Null has, and I know Kaz is like ready to talk about mining stuff, but mining got buffed like fucking crazy. I don't think people understand how big the buffs were. So we're gonna see a lot of rock boys showing up and a lot of minerals.
I'm still in the unbeliever camp, right? I've spent the last 4-6 weeks since whenever they started talking about it. I've been posting the "Don't believe his lies" meme from Memento, and I need to see the prices drop in JITA before I'll be a believer. But yeah, of course, it's good to see them have some flexibility and bring us back to a point where Null at least has, even if there's not a lot of spod or croc, that we can have some mineral selection and at least attempt through player effort to drive mineral prices down. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think that ultimately these efficiency changes are good, right? It's good for T1 battleships to be more efficient than they were before, and it also would be good if LP prices go up, honestly, because I think, like FNI and CFI nerfs could be a whole nother show. But I think if they were to stay at the current power level or something resembling it, they should not also be the most efficient in cost terms for delivering that power level. You want to see them at a price point that's a little bit higher relative to like a Tech 1 battleship. So potentially good things coming. We'll see.
What I wanted to ask, and this is a real question, because I haven't been able to come up with the reasons why this would or wouldn't be an upcoming meta, right? We're obviously going to be seeing a lot more, particularly rocks, as a massed fleet option because they're a lot more cost effective. If we're going to see a lot more large battleship fleets, especially ones that are fitting long range guns, what stops something an alternative meta like AB hacks from making a comeback?
That is the natural rock paper scissors.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think one of the main issues with the Navy battlecruiser meta at the moment is that they get both the increased tank from the battlecruiser, but also a bunch of application bonuses with medium guns. They're just, they frag Dictors incredibly quick. They have good projection. I think the move to Rokes have a lot more pronounced weaknesses to other comps, whereas you can bring AHACs against Rokes. You can't really bring AHACs against FNIs. You're just gonna get shit on because they have a per level tracking bonus. Same with sci-fis, they have an application bonus.
I mean, that's just on top of the fact that they're medium weapons anyway.
And they're
which
medium
already
weapons. Right? I think it's going to be a lot more healthy, just because the weaknesses are a lot more pronounced. If we can get away from the Navy battlecruiser spam.
I'm really in which case, I mean, I was hoping that you'd kind of confirm this kind of thing for me, because I'm really looking forward to there being battleship targets for smaller ships to go for, and that's not just on the field when you get to fly afterburner hacks and land in the middle of them and get them tackled down and start killing them without getting tracked. It's these ships are massively slower to maneuver on the field and while traveling to and from the field, right? There are going to be even easier to catch straggler options with this.
Yep.
Especially with the Ansiblex changes for being able to bubble and tackle, I think that the move to massed battleships opens up a lot of sort of side opportunities for the smaller guys in these areas as well.
Not only that,
a
I
lot
think
more.
CCP is pretty cognizant to the fact that that is the natural progression of the meta, because not only are battleships coming in, they've nerfed wobbles. Back in 2008, when it was Maelstrom fleets just fucking, or Ardiabannons just swailing at each other nonstop, PL came up with a doctrine called the Fist of, and I can't see the last part of it, but it was basically AB Zealots, and they were just warping at zero. They had almost
I
no
remember the
tools.
video.
Yeah, it's a great fucking video.
I
Can't
remember
link
the
it, sadly.
CCP blog
Yeah.
post about it that they then
Yeah.
took down after they were told what they'd
Yep.
written.
Yeah, once they realized what the name of the doctrine was. But I think CCPs can realize finally that the players are going to adapt, right? You're going to have battleship fleets. People are going to do AHACs. They don't want wobbles to immediately counter the AHACs. So I think that nerf is a tell that they understand what's about to happen. And also the fact that they gave hacks their SIG reduction back. I think they know what's about to happen.
I think one of the big things is that, I mean, it's the wobble nerf is twofold, right? So it actually buffs brawling, despite the claims of it being a buff to brawling when it was introduced. I think the second thing is more opportunities to SIG tank is a much greater way of skill expression for FCs. Just on grid, when everyone's wailing on each other with battle cruisers that perfectly track, there is very little room for skill expression outside of bringing more numbers or the occasional bombing run, right? But with battleships, there's a lot more ability for people to express themselves outside of just bringing more EHP to chew through.
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked what one of you said earlier about the sort of, introducing greatly pronounced weaknesses and strengths. I feel like the faction battlecruiser meta, which realistically was just Cyclone Fleet issues and Feroxes, is like a very even set of stats bars, whereas battleships really starts to skew them and really starts to give people a lot more opportunities. I'm really looking forward to it. Something I wanted to bring up that some viewers might not have realized as well is that these material reductions applied realistically only to the Tech 1 battleships, not the Empire Navy variants. Redline, I don't know if you're in a position to put an image up, but I did pop one in the backstage of the comparison of the mineral requirements between a vanilla Megathron and a Navy Megathron. I picked that one because
it's the spike with the change to LP farming. Which I think is a good change. I think there should be more reasons to not just, and this is one of my gripes with the Navy dreads, there should be more reasons to choose. Because when the stat increase is is even to the cost increase, you're just going to use the better one.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a reason why A-type Dead Space mods are a lot more rare and more expensive, is because
to have on the screen.
Yeah, that is exactly the one. So just so people can see the numbers here, these are the material requirements for a Megathron and a Navy Megathron. Previous to these changes, if you were going to fly a fleet of a battleship, and let's say it was the Megathron, you would always use the Navy Megathron because it was a very small amount more expensive, but for massively increased stats. Now, this thing works out at something like, maybe somebody has done some better napkin math than me. This is something like 50% more expensive. Not higher than 50%, a lot higher than 50% more expensive. So it's a lot more pronounced diminishing returns.
I think it pushes past double the cost. I think we're sitting around about there, but we should go definitely over double the cost now.
Yeah. So, you're getting all those extra hit points. You're getting that extra fitting. You're getting that extra utility high slot. but it's not costing you like 150 mil more like it used to. The difference is huge here. It's costing you basically double the price when you factor in the blueprint price as well. So I think that's a much healthier place for these ships to be in. Otherwise, these Tech 1 battleships would be basically pointless in a fleet context. And, you know, that's something else I'm really looking forward to seeing is literally vanilla Tech 1 battleships appearing in large fleets, notably in nullsec, so that people who are willing to go a bit harder on the money have some edge they can actually achieve, rather than everybody having just the best.
I think that also speaks towards the more pronounced weaknesses thing. Like a lot of the Navy battleships have the ability to cover their weaknesses a little bit more, just due to being better.
And what reminded me to sort of bring this up, and I you know, we're looking at the time. I guess we're going to be going to some closing comments in a few moments. But somebody said they want a Navy Baden. What does a Navy Baden look like? Is it just an Abaddon with even more hit points and a bit more
App
CPU?
usage bonus to guns,
Yeah.
please.
Well, I mean that's what the APOC is there for.
APOC does no damage though. I don't need all that.
Well, that's the trade-off, isn't it? That's the trade-off. And of course, you know, if the APOC and the NAVPOC did do notably more damage, it would kind of own the entire brawling meta, given it's also got the highest number of hit points as well. I wish there was a brawling meta. That's a topic for another show. Perhaps a topic for the next one.
I mean, hey, the wobble nerf definitely opened up some more possibilities for that.
Yeah, the wobble nerf made a lot of 10-man comps a lot more viable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Without completely restricting them.
Well, what we're going to do is I'm gonna go around. I'm gonna, you know, get your guys' final thoughts. Anything like last comments you want to say about what we've just had, or the future, or even if you really wanted something off topic. I mean, Kaz, if I was to come to you first, how are you feeling about this week and the future?
It's been one of the best patch weeks I can remember now in year 3. They appear to have not really bungled anything. Even the nerfs that are there have gone down as partial nerfs and partial buffs, and really sort of just retunings of the meta. Nothing but good reviews, which is so odd to say because usually I'm trying to be positive in a sea of negativity. So yeah, I'm happy. I think there's still a ton more to do, right? If I had to pick another topic for a show, it would be going back to sort of bringing passive income, that old horse around, to linking up with Equinox, and what does it mean to get a foothold in someone's space, like Redline mentioned earlier. How is that done more easily for a group that is just there to PvP? What mechanics need to change? Because I think there's a lot to be done there yet, for sort of long-term health of the game. But happy to see this patch. I'm interested to see what the expansion brings. I mean, that was the most interesting thing. They rolled a ton into this sort of between expansions content update. The fact that they're able to successfully do that is fantastic, and a big upgrade, I think, over what we've seen the past few years, and that they managed to do it all without massively pissing anyone off. You know, like I said, can't complain. Let's see what happens next.
Skyhawk, you've seen the pretty universal happiness that we've all been discussing here. Is this what you expected today?
Honestly, yeah. I just piggybacking off what Kaz was saying, I also think this is the best patch we've had in a while. The only change currently that I would still like to see to Ansiplexes, though, bring back fatigue for them. Or, well, introduce fatigue for them.
Thank you. I'm going to try and remain calm rather than celebrating with that there. Sven, how you feeling?
Make super caps great again. I don't know. That's basically it. I think endgame
Well,
content should be used more than once a year. I don't know.
And Wally, what should happen next?
Dude, you already know, man. I think since they've obviously done this with Ansiplex, right? They removed the passive ticker for repairing. I think the next logical step is all medium structures, citadels, is what I'm talking about, to no longer auto repair. There should be something there devoted to repairing that structure. You want to keep it, you should be there repairing it. It shouldn't just passively repair, right? I think that'll cut down a lot of this citadel spam that we see throughout New Eden.
I would say that, everybody's going to know what I would say, so I'll skip that and I'll say that when we have completed that thing, when that is finally done, the next war in EVE politics is going to be against the insane hit point grind that faces anybody who is looking to take over some sov space aggressively. That's going to be next on the list. Redline, do you want to let us know how you feel and take us out?
Oh. So I'm glad that everyone likes the patch. I like the patch too. I think mining better makes everything else better, which is very cool. But I think that the best thing about EVE Online is the community. And we have a rare opportunity right now where I have found a brand new streamer with 2 viewers who is also a brand new player of EVE Online. He's doing some exploring right now, and we're gonna go hang out with him. And when we get there,
Right.
if you just want to light his chat up, follow him, make him feel welcome, give him the old Eve, we're happy you're here. Do not gank him 130 times, Rayo. Do not do that. But otherwise, yeah, we'll see you guys next week. We're gonna head over to him. I've been Redline. This has been Untethered, and that's it. This is where everyone waves, and I hit the raid button. See you guys. Thanks for watching. Don't gank him.
Bye.
Okay.